So when you move, you don't only have to worry about all of the fees for the apartment, first and last month's rent, security deposit, pet deposits, or whatever. You also have to figure out the cost of actually moving. And this can depend on a lot of factors. Okay, so are you going to move yourself? Like pack and drive the truck and everything? Then you have a truck rental, and the price of the truck rental is the size of the truck, the distance and mileage, and the number of days that you might need it. These affect your price. If you're doing local, so for distance, local is per mile. If you're doing like a long distance move, like out of state, it's a one-way move, then there will be like a flat fee. And usually if you're doing like a long distance move, the number of days is included in that flat fee. They'll say, okay, you can rent the truck for, 6 days, and you have this many miles. They'll give you like a limit. And so if you're moving, say you're moving 1,000 miles away, they'll give you a buffer. You'll get like a 1,300 mile in your rental just for stopping or whatever. And then of course the size of the truck. If you rent a little tiny truck, it's much cheaper than renting a big old giant truck. Or you can hire movers, and you have full service or partial service. A full service movers, they pack you and move you. So they come into your house, they pack everything up for you, they label it, they put it in boxes, they load it into the truck, they drive it to where you're moving to, and then they unpack it and take it all out and put it away for you. They don't put everything away, like they'll put it in the right room, but they'll put the furniture where you want, and then you have to put away the individual things usually. Or you have partial service where you pack it and then they come pick up the boxes and the furniture and put it on the truck and move it. So if you get the full service, of course, is much more expensive. You're paying for the number of hours that it takes them to pack your house and load the truck. And then you also pay for the time and the distance on the truck as well as the size of the truck. If you do the partial service where you pack everything, it's a bit cheaper. You're only paying for the truck portion. And a lot of times with the partial services, they'll do more than one family or person on a big truck at a time, and so you only pay for like the amount of truck that you actually took up. When I moved across country this last time, I did that. All my stuff went on a semi-truck that was like partitioned, sort of like you would partition a hard drive, except it was like partitioning people's stuff. They put up like walls actually in the thing, and so I only had to pay for the square footage of the truck that I used, not the whole truck. So there's a lot of options there. You also have the possibility of utility connection fees and deposits. If you've had electricity or a phone or internet or cable or satellite or whatever in your name before, a lot of times you don't have these because you can just transfer it. But if you're brand new or you're going with a different company, there can be connection fees and deposits. And then if you're moving out of state, you have your driver's license and your car registration that you have to switch over. And you have 10 days legally from the time you move to do that. You only have 10 days, so that has to be included in the. It's 10. Yeah. It might be 30 on car registration, but driver's license I know for a fact is 10. You can get a ticket.
No, that's address, right?
Yeah.
Ticket.
I think it's 10.
Is it?
Yeah.
Address too?
But you should include it in the cost of your move. If you're moving out of state and you take your car with you, most states to have a car registration transferred from, like, say, from Florida to, I don't know, New York or something, that's a couple $100 usually. Yeah, it can be several $100s. It can be $400 or $600, or it could be like maybe $200 or $300. But you're looking at a couple $100, and you want to look those up before you move so that you can factor that in, so that you don't get pulled over for having a registration in the wrong state after you've moved, and then you get the ticket, which is going to be way more than the registration fee. So those are just the things to consider. Any questions? Just seen. Very unrealistic, but Jay is moving from Miami to Orlando. If he moves on a weekday, he needs more movers time to pack, load, and unload because his friends can't help him. If he moves on the weekend, he can get his friends to help, cutting down on the number of hours he would need. Okay, so this company will give you 6 hours of loading and unloading and 5 hours of packing and unpacking for a total cost of $720. Now, this does not include the distance. This is just the packing and unpacking, loading the truck and unloading the truck, not the mileage between Orlando and Miami. Okay? So during the weekday, 6 hours and 5 hours for $720. On the weekend, 4 hours and 2 hours for $400. And we want to figure out how much is each of these per hour. So we're going to call this L, and we're going to call this P for loading and packing. Okay? So 6P and 5L. Oh, I got that backwards, didn't I? Sure did. 6L, sorry, and 5P. And here I have 4L and 2P. So I'm going to solve a system of equations. 6L plus 5P is equal to $720. 4L plus 2P is equal to $400. And do you guys remember how to solve systems of equations? Vaguely? Okay. Do you want to get rid of L or do you want to get rid of P? P? Okay, so I'm going to multiply this by 2 to make that a 10. And I'm going to multiply this one by negative 5 to make this a negative 10 so that they'll cancel each other out. And that's going to give me a new set, which is 12L plus 10P is equal to 72 times 2, 1,440. And then I have negative 20L minus 10P is equal to negative 2,000. Now I add them together straight down. 12 minus 20 is negative 8L. 10 minus 10 goes away, and 2,000, oh, sorry, 1440 minus 2,000 is negative 560. Divide both sides by negative 8. And L is 70. So loading and unloading is $70 per hour. And now we want to find out how much does it cost for packing and unpacking. We're going to go back to the original equations. And I'm going to use the bottom one because it's smaller. And I've got 4L plus 2P is equal to 400. So 4 times 70 plus 2P is equal to 400. So 280 plus 2P is equal to 400. I subtract 280 from both sides. Yeah. And 2P is equal to 120, which makes P equal to 60. So we've got $70 per hour to load and unload, and $60 an hour to pack and unpack. Moving from Madison to La Crosse, and she's going to do all the packing and unpacking herself. So, oops, typo. The moving company quoted her $12.50 for 8 hours of loading and unloading and driving 130 miles. So that's the putting everything on the truck and taking it off of the truck and the 130-mile drive. They quoted the same price if the truck drives an extra 30 miles to pick up Samantha's brother. she gets her brother's help, she only needs to hire the movers for 6 hours. And so we want to figure out how much do they charge for the hour for loading and unloading, and how much do they charge for the mile. So this is going to be kind of the same sort of setup. We're going to have, we'll do L again for loading and unloading, and we'll do M for miles. Okay, and then we have 8 hours of loading and unloading, and 130 miles is equal to $12.50. Now, they quoted her the same price if the truck drove the extra 30 miles to pick up her brother, and that will lower her use of the movers down to 6 hours. So 6 hours of loading and unloading and 160 miles. Okay. And we want to find out how much is their hourly rate for loading and unloading, and how much is their mileage rate. Does everybody understand where I got those numbers? Exact same thing. I'm going to get rid of 8 and 6 because that's easier than 130 and 160. For me anyway. So I'm going to multiply this by 3 to make it a positive 24. And I'm going to multiply this one by negative 4 to make it a negative 24. Okay, which is going to change these to 24L plus 390M is equal to, let me just double check that, 3750. And then I have negative 24L minus 640M is equal to negative 5,000. I'm going to add those together. Okay, so my positive 24 and my negative 24 will cancel out. So I do 390 minus 640, and I get negative 250 M. And 3750 minus 5,000 gives me negative 1250. Divide both sides by negative 250. Yeah. And it's $5. So it's $5 per mile. Okay. Then I'm going to take that 5, post it into probably this one, just for whatever. Not that it really matters. I can use either of the original ones. So 6 times 5 plus 160M is equal to 1250 plus 30 that's a 2, sorry, it's ugly. Subtract 30 from both sides, I get 160M is equal to 1220. Divide both sides by 160. Oh, darn it. I just realized I just did that. Yes, I did this completely wrong. I apologize. That's me putting in the wrong variable in the wrong place. I had a blonde moment. Because I'm blonde, I'm allowed to say that. It's not prejudice, it's against myself. Okay, 6L plus whatever 160 times 5 is, 800, is equal to 1250. That makes more sense. Subtract 800 from both sides, and I get 450. Divide by 6. Just wanted to double check myself. So $75 per hour for the loading and unloading. Anyway, we have a living room, a bedroom, a dining room, and a kitchen, and a bathroom. Okay. We have one door to go in and out of the apartment and one sliding glass door. Okay, so this is a sliding glass door here. Oh, I don't want to do that because I'm going to block what I'm doing. Okay, so one door, one sliding glass door. I have, in the living room, I have no doors between the dining area and the living room. It's just walkway. I have one door into the bedroom, one door into the bathroom, and no direct entry from the bedroom to the bathroom. So let's write down what we've got so far. We have a living room, and just 20 by 12, it's 240 square feet. We have the bedroom. We have one bedroom. And that's 15 by 12. So that is 180 square feet. That's actually a pretty decent sized bedroom. Standard bedrooms in apartments are usually 10 by 12. So our dining room is 56 square feet. Okay, again we have one entry door. We have one sliding glass door. Now this could go out to the outside and you could like walk out and exit the apartment that way if it's a first floor apartment, or maybe it goes to a balcony or a patio or something. A lot of times on a floor plan they will indicate that. This one just doesn't. We have two interior doors. Okay. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 windows. Okay, 2 in the bedroom, 1 in the bathroom, and 1 in the kitchen. We have no windows in the living room. We just have that slider. Okay. We have a fridge and an oven or a stove. We have a bathtub and shower and a toilet. We have a sink, double sink in the kitchen and a single sink in the bathroom. We have cabinets and counter space. Do you notice what this house does not have? Okay, that's one thing. What else? Okay, no stairs. Where do you put your stuff? There are no closets in the bedroom. There's not a pantry in the kitchen. There's no closets. Okay. Now, if you were looking at an apartment complex brochure, for example, and you saw this, you would want to notice that there were no closets. And there are some, like especially older apartments and houses that have been renovated into apartments that don't have closets. They didn't have built-in closets originally. In old homes and old apartments, everybody bought armoires. Do you know what an armoire is? Yeah, it's a wardrobe. It's like a tall wooden piece of furniture with doors that open and it has hanging bits inside. People didn't have closets. So you would want to notice that there was no closet, because otherwise you're going to have to buy like like one of those metal clothes rack things from, that are meant for like a laundry room to hang your clothes on, or buy more furniture or something. It's going to use floor plans for his new home to help him purchase base molding. Okay, base molding is, like the floorboard, this thing, like this gray thing on the wall at the bottom here. the plans are drawn using a scale of 1/4 inch represents 1 foot. Okay, so he measures the wall in the floor plan. He's going to use the floor plan. It's easier to measure your floor plan if it's accurate than to actually get a tape measure out and move all your furniture and measure your walls, right? So he has a total of 23.5 inches on his floor plan, and the molding is $210 per foot. So how much does he need to have to spend on this? Okay, 1/4 is equal to 1. Okay, so 1/4 inch is equal to 1 foot. That means that every 1 inch is equal to how many feet? How many 1/4 inches in an inch? 4, right? So 1 inch will be 4 feet. Make sense so far? All right, so we have 23.5 inches. We want to divide that by, that by 4 feet, because every inch is 4 feet, and that'll tell us the number of feet. So I'm going to convert that to a decimal, so it's 23.5. I'm going to multiply it by 4. And it's going to be 94 feet. So he has to buy 94 feet worth of molding at $2.10 each. And so his baseboards are going to cost him $197.40. Gabriella is going to carpet her living room except for where her piano is, and that's a really good idea. You don't really want to put a piano on carpet. It messes it up. So she's going to put her piano on wood, and the radius is 8 feet. So this part is 8 feet. Okay. Her living room is 25 foot by 16 foot. But we're going to take this area of the living room and we're going to cut out or subtract the area of 1/4 of a circle. Okay, so let's just review. Area of a rectangle is length times width. Area of a circle is pi r squared. Pi is what? 3.14. March 14th. Yay, Pi Day. Okay, so we're going to take the area of the rectangle and we're going to subtract 1/4 of the area of the circle because we have a quarter circle. Right here, quarter. So far okay? And that's going to equal the area of the carpet. So for this part, we have 25 by 16. And 1/4 is the same thing as divided by 4. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 8 squared divided by 4. And that'll give me 1/4 of a circle. Does that make sense? Here's pi r squared, and there's the 1/4. So first I'm going to do 25. Yes, circle. 25 by 16 is 400 square feet. And then I have 3.14 times 64 divided by 4. And just to make everything easier, I'm going to go 4 into 64 first because that'll make my multiplication smaller. And that's going to be 16. And so I'm going to have 400 minus 16 times 3.14 is 50.24. And so I'm going to have 349.76 square feet of carpet. However, they don't sell carpet, bless you, by the partial square foot. Like you can't go in and say, I would like, 0.8 of a square foot of carpet, please. They're going to say no. So we're actually going to have to buy 350 square feet of carpet, which is $9.95 per square foot. So we're going to take that and multiply it by the $9.95. And we're going to get $3,482.50 to carpet this living room. Okay, so gazebo, huge gazebo, 10 foot by 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 10 foot, all the way around. Big old gazebo, right? It's $14 a square foot for the wood to make the floor because it's a special kind of wood. Probably have pressure treated hardwood so that it won't rot very quickly. So we need to find the area of an octagon. Now the area of a regular polygon, and remember a regular polygon or regular means that all the sides are the same. Okay, we can have irregular octagons. Any 8-sided figure is an octagon, but you could have like different lengths of sides. But a regular octagon has all of the sides the same and all of the angles are the same. And the area of a regular polygon is 1/2 of the apothem times the perimeter. Here's where that comes from. If I take this octagon and I do all the diagonals, which I'm not very good at straight lines today apparently. Oh, I can make straight lines. Hold on. I'm on cheat. Ta-da. I do all the diagonals. I get all these triangles. And they all meet at the same spot, which is the center of the, if I had drawn them correctly. They meet at the center. And see how the area of a triangle is the base times the height, 1/2 the base times the height? Only I have more than one triangle, so that's where the perimeter comes in. I have area is 1/2 base times height, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 of them, and that gives me the base times 8, which is the perimeter. So that's where it comes from. It's actually the triangles. Yeah. Yeah. So to find the area of any regular polygon, you're going to have to use that formula. Area is equal to 1/2 AP. The apothem is kind of like the radius. It's not to the vertex, it's to the side. It's going to be at a 90-degree angle. That's how you know it's the apothem. So this is not an apothem. This is an apothem. And the length of this apothem is 12 feet, so it's 1/2 of 12 times the perimeter. The perimeter, we have 8 sides, and they're 10 feet each. So, actually, I'm going to do this in parts. 1/2 of 12, and then 8 times 10. 1/2 of 12 is 6, 8 times 10 is 80. That gives me 480 square feet. That's supposed to be a cube. Yeah, it looks complicated, but it's not. No. Nope. Apothem times perimeter, yeah. Okay, so 480 times the $14 a square foot that this is going to cost for the wood. And you're looking at $6,720 just for the floor of the gazebo. Okay, now calculus. Calculus was sort of developed primarily to find the area and volume of irregular shaped things. So the area under a curve or inside of a curve, the volume of a lake. Because it's not, we know volume of a rectangle, like a cube, a box, is easy, length times width times height. But lakes are not perfect rectangular boxes of water. And natural features are not regular. And calculus allows us to find these, like the slope of a curve and the area of curves, under curves or inside curves, and volumes of weird ellipsoid or irregular crazy figures. And that's great. If you're a mathematician, you can figure out the area of your irregularly shaped garden using calculus. But most people are not mathematicians and do not know enough calculus to go out and figure this out. So there's this thing called the Monte Carlo method. Okay? And what happens is they take the garden, the dimensions of the garden in the irregular shape, and they put it into a rectangle, which is a regular shape that we can find the area of. And it fits into a rectangle that is 15 yards by 20 yards. You take the garden and you measure the length and the width at the longest and widest parts, and you overlay that over a grid. You take a picture of it or whatever, and you put it in a grid that represents the 15 by 20. So we've got a 15 by 20 space, and the garden fits inside that. Then there's a computer program that puts all these dots randomly all over this rectangle, just dots. Okay? And what'll happen is it uses a random dot matrices, and so it figures out how many dots go everywhere. And so if the computer puts 1,000 dots, so like we do 1,000 total dots, okay, in the 15 by 20 rectangle, and let's say that 631 dots on the garden. Okay, the computer would generate that. It would tell us the number. It would tell us there were 631 dots on the garden and 1,000 total dots. We can use that to figure out pretty closely the area of the garden. And here's how it's going to work. You have object dots over total dots is equal to object area, which is what we're looking for, over rectangular area. So there were 631 dots on the garden out of 1,000 total dots. I don't know the object's area, so I'm going to call that x. And the rectangle area is 15 times 20. So far, so good? So that gives me 631 over 1,000 is equal to x over 300. And this is a proportion, and I cross multiply. So I do 631 times 300 and 1,000 times x. So I get 1,000x is equal to 631 times 300. Oops. So that's 1,000x is equal to 189,300. Divide both sides by 1,000. And x is equal to 189.3. This is the approximate area of the garden, 189.3 square feet. We would give you the number of dots. Yeah, I'd give you the dots. I just wanted to kind of talk it through, so that's why I didn't put it in the problem. So if you're going to figure out the cost of, you buy fertilizer for a garden, the amount of fertilizer you have to lay down is by square feet, mulch is by square feet. If you know how much space the plants take up, you need to know how many plants to fill it, that's by square feet. So this would give you, okay, it's about 180, but basically 190 square feet, and you need to buy enough material for that area. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on how to figure? Air conditioning units are registered by BTUs, okay? And you have to figure out the BTUs for individual rooms, and then you take those individual room BTUs and then you put that all together to figure out the total house BTU. But we're only going to be doing individual rooms. We're not going to work on the whole house. And BTUs are British thermal units. That's what BTU stands for, just in case you wondered. And it is a measurement of how much energy needs to be expended for what size of room and which conditions. And the size of the room is the volume of the room, because if you're heating and air conditioning a room, you're heating and air conditioning the air, which is the volume. So the volume is equal to length times width times height if you have a rectangular room. Of course, if the room was like a circular room, it'd be a cylinder that you would need to do, but we're not going to worry about that. So if we have a 14 by 16 by 8 foot room, we're going to multiply those three things together, and our volume is going to be 1792 cubic feet, or feet to the third. Here's the thing about BTUs. Some people might think the bigger the better. That is not actually true. Okay, if your BTU rating is too small for the room, it won't run efficiently. It'll keep having to run and run and run and run and run to try to cool the room, and it wastes a lot of electricity. And it may not ever cool the room to the level you want it because it's just not strong enough. And so people go, okay, well, I'll just get a big one, a really big one. But here's the thing. Air conditioning units also remove humidity from the air. If you have an air conditioning system that is too big for your space, it will cool off the room before it removes all the humidity, and so it will shut off, because they do that, they auto shut off on and off to keep the temperature. Well, if it cools the room before it removes the humidity and it shuts it off, the humidity level stays too high and you get mold and mildew problems. So you don't want a unit that's too big for your space either. Bigger in this case is not necessarily better. It can cause a lot of health problems and issues from like mold and mildew. So you want the right size for your space, like the exact right size. And the way we calculate that is with a formula. It's WHILE over 60, while over 60. The W, the H, and the L are the width, the height, and the length of the room. So that takes care of the volume of the room. The other things you need to know are I and E. Okay, I is the insulation rating. Okay, if it's good, I is 10. If it's bad, I is 18. So if it's good insulation, you put in a 10. If it's bad insulation, you put in an 18. If you don't know, maybe 15. Go in the middle somewhere. E is the exposure of the room, so the outside wall. Oops. Okay, and what I mean by that is if you take this room right here, the wall with the windows, that's the facing wall. That's the exposure. The other three walls are inside the building, and so they're not being exposed to the sun and the air outside. And so we look at which direction is that wall facing. Anybody know? I don't have my compass with me. Oh yeah, I do have a phone. Oh, anyway, we'll just say west or something. Okay, so like if that's west, that's the exposure, and those have different numbers too. Okay, so why is it doing that? Okay, north is 16. East is 17. South is 18. And west is 20. Okay, north, east, south, west, 16, 17, 18, 20. So for this particular room, we have a 16 by 14 by 9, well insulated. So well insulated means I equals 10. On the west side of the house, E equals 20. So for my BTUs for this one room, I'm going to do 16 by 14, I is 10, L is 9, E is 20, divided by 60. So 16 times 14. Oh, I flipped up the height and the length, but you guys get it, right? 10, 9, and 20. Divide that by 60, and for this room, I would need 6,720 BTUs. Now, obviously, if you're talking about a house, that facing wall, every room will have, you know, if you have a rectangular house, you're going to have north rooms, south rooms, east rooms, and west rooms. And that's when you calculate each individual room and then put all the calculations together. But we're only going to be working on individual rooms, okay? So for your homework,